All right, let's talk about a number so big it's almost hard to wrap your head around. We're going to unpack the story behind one of the largest private fortunes ever created and the totally interconnected empire that built it. Welcome to what's being called the Muskonomy.
So, there it is, $852 billion. That's the estimated net worth of Elon Musk. We're talking as of early 2026. And look, this isn't just about breaking records. This is like creating a whole new league of its own.
So, you got to be asking yourself, how on earth do you build a fortune that big? Is it just stocks? Pure genius innovation? Some kind of crazy deal-making? Well, yeah, it's a mix of all that stuff, but the real explosion, the thing that sent his wealth into the stratosphere, well, that comes down to a couple of key moves, and that's exactly what we're going to break down right now. Okay, so before we get into the how, we really need to get a handle on the sheer scale of this thing. We're not just talking about someone climbing to the top of the rich list. No, this is more like the rich list was a skyscraper and he just built a space station on top of it. It completely changes our idea of what the ceiling even is.
And this is what's absolutely nuts. The gap. Musk isn't just number one by a little bit. He's nearly $600 billion ahead of second place Larry Page. Think about that for a second. The gap between first and second place is bigger than anyone else's entire fortune on the planet. It's just staggering.
And the speed at which this all happened, it's mind-blowing. Just look at this timeline. We're talking about a 4-month period. It jumped from $500 billion to over $850 billion. And each of those leaps, you can pin it to something specific. A big Tesla stock rally, a huge jump in SpaceX's private valuation, a court decision going his way, and then, well, then came the big one.
Right, this is it. This is the single move that really lit the fuse and sent his net worth into orbit. And it wasn't a shiny new product launch or anything like that. It was something much more fundamental. It was about consolidating his power, and in the process, creating a totally new kind of corporate beast.
And the math behind it is actually pretty straightforward, but brilliant. You've got SpaceX, his rocket company, which just hit $1 trillion valuation on its own. Then you have his AI startup, xAI, valued at a cool $250 billion. So what does he do? He has SpaceX acquire xAI. Boom! You fold that $250 billion into the trillion, and suddenly you've got this single, unified monster of a company valued at $1.25 trillion.
But here's the really important part. This wasn't just some clever trick on a spreadsheet. This was about creating some serious strategic synergy. Think about it. Now, his Grok AI can be plugged directly into the massive Starlink satellite network. It can tap into all those huge government and defense contracts that SpaceX has. It's like creating a closed loop. You've got the data, the hardware, and the intelligence all under one roof.
Okay, so that merger, it's the perfect way to start understanding the much bigger picture here, what people are starting to call the Muskonomy. It's this whole ecosystem where every company, even though they do different things, they all feed into and support each other.
Yeah, this gives you a great bird's eye view. I mean, going all the way back to PayPal and then to the giants we see today, it's this crazy interconnected web. You've got SpaceX as the foundation, the new powerhouse of xAI folded in, Tesla doing its thing, the Boring Company for digging tunnels, and then Neuralink. And what's wild is how they all share talent, tech, and this one overarching vision.
Let's take Tesla, for example. I know, most of us still think of it as a car company. But that massive valuation, it's got less and less to do with just selling cars. It's all about what's coming next. Its future as an AI and robotics company. We're talking full self-driving, the Optimus robot. That's where the big money, the big bets are really being placed. Which brings us to, honestly, maybe the most sci-fi and, in a way, the most personal piece of this whole puzzle. Forget cars and rockets for a second. What if? What if you could actually merge the human brain with AI?
Well, that's exactly what Neuralink is all about. Their first product is called telepathy. It's a brain-computer interface, or BCI, and its goal is to give people who are paralyzed the ability to control things like phones and computers just with their thoughts. And this isn't just a concept. Right now, there are 21 people, they call them neuronauts, who are in clinical trials actually using this stuff. And the human impact, it's just incredible. This quote, this is from Nolan, the very first person to get the implant. He was paralyzed for a decade, and now he's back in college, studying neuroscience, using the device to get his independence back. It's just a really powerful reminder that behind all these huge numbers and futuristic tech, there are real people whose lives are being changed.
So obviously, this kind of crazy innovation costs a ton of money, and you need a pretty unique way to motivate people to pull it off. But that's where things get
complicated. Because the way Musk himself gets paid, or doesn't get paid, from Tesla has turned into this huge, tangled controversy.
Okay, so this timeline really lays out the whole drama. Back in 2018, Tesla shareholders voted and approved this massive performance-based pay package for Musk. And as you can see, he then went and hit every single ambitious target, creating a ton of value for those shareholders. But a lawsuit, the now famous Tornetta case, came along and challenged the whole thing. The argument was basically that the board wasn't really independent when they approved it, and that kicked off a legal battle that's been going on for years.
And the result of all that legal fighting? Here it is. Even though he hit every single target and unlocked all 12 parts of that award, an award worth over $50 billion, the amount of actual cash compensation he's received from it is zero. Nothing. The whole thing is still completely tied up in court.
So that's kind of the story of how we got to this insane number. But what about the future? Where does the road go from here? For Musk, the path to even more growth and maybe becoming the world's first trillionaire, it all comes down to one thing: an all-in bet on winning the AI arms race. And believe me, this isn't just talk. Check out the raw power we're looking at here. xAI is building this massive supercomputer facility. They're calling it Colossus, and it's expected to chew up 2 gigawatts of power. Just to put that in perspective, that's more estimated compute power than what OpenAI, Google, and Meta have. He's not trying to compete, he's trying to dominate.
So how do you even get that much power? You do it with this, a staggering 555,000 of the world's most powerful NVIDIA GPUs. This isn't just buying a lot of hardware. This is an attempt to build a lead in raw computational power, the absolute key resource in the age of AI that is so big no one can catch up.
So when you see all these pieces finally clicking together, space, AI, robotics, even connecting to the human brain, you're left with this one big fundamental question, right? On one hand, we're watching the birth of this incredible interconnected tech ecosystem that could, potentially, solve some of our biggest problems. But on the other hand, is this new Muskonomy really an engine for all of us, for global progress? Or is it, at the end of the day, an empire built for one person?